was maybe not telling the truth in a sense, or couldn't believe his living expense. Um, Bill says, I can get a new house, but I only have one wife. Yes. But hold on, this Curtis is here, and there's also a question from Ethan from your channel. It says, what do you think about developing waterfront property? Of course, it can be lucrative if done properly, but as a new investor, I'm 20. Should I focus more on building a multifamily portfolio for this?
So what I was told by my mentor was you get cash flowing rentals first. He didn't say multifamily. He said cash flowing rentals. Take the cash flow and then get into development. So that's exactly what I'm doing. You don't have to follow that. If you strike gold in the development space, you will become richer faster. But if you mess up, you're done. That's like when you run out of money at the casino. You're just out. So you go bust. You can't bail your way out of a big development deal if you don't have any other income to pay for it. So I would start with the rentals, that cash flow. You don't have to, but I think you'll be glad you did if you listen to this advice.
All right, Curtis. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm sure people know you, but you are PE turned RE, so go check out his YouTube channel. But what's going on, man?
Hey, thanks for having me. Sorry for hopping on late.
No, you got to teach them kids, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I forget. Have you guys met in person before? You and Cody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I don't know.
Was that at the Dion event in Tacoma or what?
I think we met a couple times. I think we met at the Dion event, and then Dion and I think it was you spoke at the one in Olympia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ethan does say thank you. Ethan did jump over to your channel because there's no ads. But Ethan, at least subscribe to my channel too, please, and Curtis's channel. I put Curtis's channel in the chat on my side. But Curtis, I don't know. We're gonna throw you right in there real quick. Then, you have any thoughts on this question that Ethan had?
Yeah. Sorry, that was the school bell. Yeah, I think Cody is spot on. Is that you got to have the cash flow first. It's kind of like this safety net. I haven't done a development yet, mostly because I want that reserve or that net in case something goes wrong, because it kind of will go wrong. And I can only imagine with a waterfront property, there's probably even more hoops that you have to jump through. If you think an ADU or a DADU is tough to build or tough to get the permits through, I can only imagine the waterfront property.
All right, now let's see if you have any thoughts on it. Because I sent you the Cody's recent video, right, or one of the recent videos. Did you get a chance to take a look at it and have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting, and I kind of was thinking through of like, all right, if I'm going to these events or I'm meeting all these people, how can I actually use with what he said to position myself like better? And I think especially when you're early on in the journey, you don't really think of that part, right? I think Cody, I think the example that you used was you fell out of contract or a deal fell through, but you didn't say that part when you called the person. You said, hey, this deal that I was working on, it didn't quite work out. I'm ready to do another thing. And I think as a new investor or newer in their first few years, I think you can really use that that reframe to kind of get the conversation forward. So instead of saying, hey, I'm a new investor, you could say, hey, I have a few doors, I'm looking to move to X, Y, or Z, and kind of reposition yourself into a better spot. So that way, yes, you may not be the most experienced, but you have something.
I see KC tuning in. Yeah, he says congrats, Cody, on your new wedding. But he also says, yeah, so I mentioned Kyle Doran, who will be back on Thursday with Dion. He says, yeah, the 600 living expense is pretty hard to believe. And someone like Curtis, who also sacrificed quite a bit to get on the property ladder. And if, like I said, if people don't know his story, I always love talking about it. Like I said, Kyle, he's sacrificing his living expenses, like $600, to reach his five. But Curtis basically had no shower, right, in your first house hack. So you want to touch on that briefly, real quickly again?
Yeah, so I got the duplex in 2022, late 2022, and I kind of reconfigured the house. I didn't really want to share space with people, do the whole like roommate thing, so I kind of sectioned off the primary suite. But in doing so, that left me with about 200 square feet, no shower, no kitchen, no laundry. So it's kind of like a small dorm. But I was just fresh out of college, and so it made it work. Showered at work, showered at the gym, showered at my mom's. It made a great excuse to go over there so I could do laundry, right? But in doing so, I basically eliminated my housing expense, right? So kind of got my foot in the door.
And when you see Curtis in Vegas, you'll be like, this is not a small dude. Like, how did he do this? Right. So you played football in college, and you're not a tiny dude. So I'm sure it wasn't comfortable for you, but you sacrificed it. And are you still living without a shower?
No, so I bought this triplex last year. It was a 1 bedroom. It's probably about 500-600 square feet. And when I moved into it, I don't even know what to do with all this space. Like I was like, oh my gosh, there's a living room, there's a full bathroom, like there's laundry. So now I feel like I'm living a life of like luxury. And so it really kind of changes your perspective when you sacrifice early on.
Yeah, so that's why I love having Kyle Doran, who'll be back on Thursday. But like you said, he's someone who sacrificed $600 living expense, but that's his retirement or financial freedom number. Curtis, got into the house hacking, no shower, but like Josh Burdick says, who needs a shower when you have a garden hose? But even Cody talked about, it hasn't always been easy. There's been struggles along the way, and I think that's the one great thing about being a part of this community. Everyone is sharing their wins, their losses, and helping other people realize that it is possible. Curtis, do you have anything else on that kind of topic as far as the Cody's video? Because I know you just got your agent license too, right? Is it a struggle for you to maybe talk to clients? Maybe I'm not sure if you've done your first transaction yet on the realtor side, but like, how do you present yourself to people you're reaching out to?
Yeah, unfortunately, kind of had two deals kind of fall through there, but and that's okay. The way that I kind of have positioned it is that when they ask me about, oh, well, have you done a transaction or how much experience do you have? I kind of tell them about my purchases, how I manage my own properties. I don't necessarily try to go down the lane of like agent transactions. I just tell them about the purchases that I've already made, and kind of talk about our team. Because Cody, I know that you know Patrick and Jesse, and so
Mhm.
I'm on their team, and so I kind of talk about the team's experience if they ask about experience overall. How would you position it? Because I know you started off as an agent.
What's the typical deal you would like to broker?
The typical deal. Well, at this point, it's kind of any deal.
That's fine, but let's
Yeah.
say ideal world,
Mhm.
right? The reason I bring this up, when I was getting started, I was thinking, I'm going to sell anything. And you've probably met the real estate agents that say, I sell land, I sell condos, I can do houses, I can do waterfront, I can do apartments. And I'm like, okay, well, I know who I'm not working with,
Mm.
right? I mean, that's just the reality. I hate working with those people
Mhm.
because they have the mindset that they can do everything when in fact they can do everything very poorly. So I would figure out what your ideal brokerage box, we could call it, is. And as a real estate agent today, I will only sell multifamily. If it's a house, I'm going to refer it out,
Mm.
or I'm just not even going to take on the business. It's not worth it. And what you end up doing is you create a an image that people think of. So when people think of me as an agent, for the very few people who do, because I'm not actually actively pushing it, it's only multifamily. And specifically, it's multifamily in Grant County or surrounding areas. I'm
Mhm.
not doing stuff in Seattle. I'm not selling houses. It's of no interest to me. So I would craft that so that you can position yourself as well. I went from working a job. Now I got my real estate license because I bought multifamily. I started with house hack. I got a triplex. I got a duplex. I've done remodels. My first place didn't even have a shower, and I would like to help people that have similar goals do the same thing. That's your talk track. So as a broker, I'm working specifically on small to mid-sized multifamily to help the average person get closer to their goals.
Mhm.
And that could be your thing. And now, if a single family house pops up, you could sell it. But you're going to get known for your talk track, whatever you're sharing. And so, if you wanted to make that your mission, it's highly relatable. You've done it. It's a goal a lot of people share. That's how I would position it if I were you.
Mhm. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking that track, or I've been doing like open houses, but only by the school that I teach at, because kind of playing the hey, I'm part of the community, I work for the community, I help your kids, now let me help you type of deal. But I kind of like the other talk track more.
Lynn does have a question. It says, Mark, oh, where'd it go? Mark, Curtis, and Cody, how much money do you need a month to pay all your bills without luxury? So Lynn was one of those who was kind of, I wouldn't say questioning Kyle's expenses, but just was kind of like, man, health insurance costs this much so how is he doing it on 600? But so Curtis, maybe you can go first. How much money do you need a month to pay all your bills without luxury?
Um, Currently, my health insurance is being paid for, so I'd have to look at what health insurance is if I didn't have my teacher job. But as of right now, I think my bills are probably around two ish to three ish k uh, a month. Um, that sounds about right. Yeah, probably about 2 or 3 grand.
Mine are at with Ashley. It's 3,000 a month.
Yeah, mine, well, off the record, some bills are not required to be paid, but I am paying my son's mom more than I on paper supposed to. I would probably say, if you include that, I'm probably around 4K or so. I give her way more than I'm supposed to. I need to talk to her about that too. Good reminder. But a lot of that, yeah, that's definitely a different subject.
Yeah,
Uh,
and to be fair, if you can live off of 3 to 4,000 a month, it's very easy to build wealth,
Mhm.
regardless of job. I mean, if you can live on that, you get a few rentals that over the course of a decade will easily pay for that, adjusted for inflation, and
but
you're out.
yeah, I will throw out if people, some people heard me say it before, but so part of it is I am kind of reverse house hacking, so that's definitely been a huge difference for me. So I'm renting out my primary now, and I moved back with my parents to as they're aging to help them out. So that has definitely been the huge savings or kind of adjustment in the amount of expense and cash flow coming in from my rental, my primary that's now a rental. So that's also why I'm probably gonna retire next year. I mean, that's been a huge difference.
I'm going to be house hacking my first building soon. Going to
Mm.
live in a sevenplex. So I'm renting it from the guy that's selling it to me after the fact on seller financing. And so it should cash flow my living expenses and get rid of my rent payment. So very excited about that.
Nice. How does the lending work on that? Because I know with some commercial loans or private money loans, you can't always live on the property because it can't be your primary. How's that working?
Well, it's not going to be a bank loan. It's going to be real estate contract.
Mm.
And so I'm going to be living in there. It's private money. So I'm going to live in one of the 7 townhomes, rent out the other 6. The payment will be with taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance. I'm going to self-manage because I can. But the total outflow every month will be about 10,000, and while I live in it, it'll bring in about 11,200. So that'll be cool, and that'll be me living rent free.
Steven, Hard Hat to Rentals again, says, this is why my buy box is set to 200K and down. I can afford it if something goes south. I'm 48 and I don't have time to start over. Jen Tam says, I love that Cody is so humble and down to earth and tries to stay away from people that think they know everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I've separated out of some partnerships like that.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people, enjoy you joining the school community. Also, looking forward to you speaking or kicking off the ORAD event. I think a lot of people can relate to you. Like you're saying, you're not trying to sell them anything. You're just there sharing your journey. You're always willing to help. I know being, I gave you guys some heat for not showing up to the Gen Z call on Saturday, you and Dylan, but it was all in fun.
I texted Dylan. I was like, "You got it," because I was on my honeymoon, and he's like, "Yeah, I got it." And then I saw that. I was like, "Oh, guess that didn't happen."
Yeah, it was more. I was just giving Dylan. He said he was throwing up like 5 minutes before the call, so I was just giving him a hard time.
Can you put up Steve's comment? Not able to house hack.
Yeah. Well, no, not a comment. He was actually here. Here's the beginning part of it. So, Steve, the accidental landlord, says, ready to purchase property number 2. Should I target a duplex in a C class or a single family in a B class? And then I believe someone asked him, are you planning to house hack? And then he said, not able to house hack. So, let's see. We'll go back to the original. So, yeah. Do you guys have any thoughts on this?
I would pick a duplex.
Oh yeah, especially if you're early on. I feel like the extra income allows for that a buffer.
Yes, I believe Steve is looking in Jacksonville still yet, I believe. Out of state. So, Josh Burdick does say, yeah, he missed congratulating Cody on his nuptials. So definitely, yep, Cody just got married recently. Ethan has another question. It says, if you were my age, how would you go start off and operate moving forward to set yourself up to retire from your full-time job by the age of 30? So I think previously he mentioned he was 20. So in 10 years, I guess.
If you bought a duplex every other year, I'd say you could get there in 10 years. That's not even that aggressive. I would try that because you figure rent will probably be up 50% over the course of 10 years. It's not linear, and rent doubles every about 15 years in most markets. So you figure it'll probably be up 50%, 60% over that course of time. And so if you can get into it, house hack, lower your cost of living, save up, do another one. And then even if all you did after that point was throw all of your money at the mortgage on the first one, if you got a duplex completely paid off and you lived in the other, you could probably leave your job by 30.
Question there. And so if someone wanted to be more aggressive or meet with owners and you did while he had that full-time job, how would you go about it? Because I know your big thing was let's grab lunch, let's grab coffee, right? But if he's working a full-time job, how could he go about that?
The weekends. And the thing is, you have to use the relatable points you have. Most people worked a job and put money into real estate on the side. All of my mentors worked a job and put money into real estate on the side. I was the oddball that had to figure out how to connect with these people. What you guys are doing is more relatable. So I had to figure out how to position myself for where those people would still want to meet with me, but they're going to relate to you guys off the bat because they worked a job. My One of my favorite people, we're friends now. He is twice my age, but he worked a job for a long time. And when issues would happen at his rental, he'd be like, "I'll be there after 5. I'm working on something." And yeah, he would just have to go through his job 9 to 5, and then he'd go do the work after to fix the rental. That's relatable to folks. So I would just try and set up those meetings. Hey, I'm working my job, but I'm working on getting into this space. Could we meet on the weekend? And I believe a lot of people will say yes to that.
Hard hat to rentals. Going back to kind of the expenses we were mentioning, but he says, "Yeah, I wish my bills were so low. I'm at 8K, but this is everything: gas, electricity, even tobacco." So I think Zuber has posted some things on social media recently. A lot of it also is kind of how big of a wheel have you created for yourself. Like the rat race is kind of, you also have to look at it that way. And I know a lot of people in the community, they do make a lot of they make good money, their rentals are doing well. It's just the wheel that they've created. And not saying that they're doing anything wrong, but maybe they have a big family, this, with the area that they live, the cost of living. So sometimes it's also that wheel. And that's why, like, even Kyle, the $600 may not relate to a lot of people, but the lifestyle that he's chosen, it works for him, right? And maybe the area he lives and whatnot. But 8K, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there is maybe less tobacco, or maybe maybe some things you could cut back on. But if 8K, but yeah, you have a number to work with, right?
And maybe that's just the wheel. It is what it is. Yep. I'm confident when I move to the west side, when I go back to like Gig Harbor, that my expenses will probably triple.
Yeah. So let's see. Sorry, somebody just messaged me for my loan. I'll message them after. Kyle Dorn says, yeah, 5 to 9 makes dreams if done correctly. Definitely. So Lynn, so hard hat. Here we go. So Lynn is saying tobacco is a luxury, and then hard hat to Rental says tobacco is necessary in my line of work. But I kind of was mentioned this individual to Cody before we started live streaming, but this person that was on my channel a while back, her name is Lindsay Stamp. She's on X. She's in Pittsburgh. She's done rentals. She did that whole thing. She has a portfolio, but now she's pivoted. She's totally into Bitcoin. She's went all in on Bitcoin. But even her, she has a well-paying job, but she has a kind of a series going on X. She does Uber Chronicles. She does Uber, on her side whenever she has the free time, and she chronicles her journey, and everything she earns from there, she's just throwing into Bitcoin. But yeah, it can be done. I mean, it's not easy, but definitely there is ways to figure out how to generate some extra income and throw it into whatever asset class that you prefer.
Yeah, I think my first couple years of teaching, maybe my first 2, I was doing the DoorDash, and it was awesome when people would not pick up their order, because then I got paid and I got a free meal. Those were like my Super Bowl days.
Yeah. Well, you probably just dropped it off at the wrong place or went to the wrong house to say that they didn't pick it up. I've seen you order your Uber too. That's why I've seen you use your ride share in Vegas.
Man, that ride share with that was kind of an epic fail. I thought I was getting a great deal, but it really wasn't.
But I don't think you've been on for a while, Curtis, but I also want to, even Ray has mentioned, you always are thinking outside the box a little bit. So Ray was on a few weeks ago talking about, he's been doing Airbnb, kind of like a house hack Airbnb situation. But he has another house that he's been renting out, right? And he never even thought about it for some reason. And he kind of touched on what advice you gave him.
Yeah. I think when there's more pieces on the board, you kind of get more creative, right? And so at the moment, I only have my 2 pieces. But when Ray came and told me what his plan was, I could kind of see his board and say, "Oh, have you thought of this move?" And it was really cool to actually be able to help someone out that was a little bit further in the game than I was.
But what was the advice or strategy you gave him to do, or he never really wasn't even thinking about?
Oh yeah, because he was going around options of to do Airbnb or do this or do that, and I told him, I was like, okay, it's a single family home. Why don't you just move into it, wait 2 years, and then sell it, and then that way he doesn't have to pay the capital gains.
But but didn't you also advise him to possibly move into that house?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So to move to once that contract once his lease was up to move into it, and so that way he can live in it 2 years. He could Airbnb the one that he's currently in, so his cash flow will actually probably go up, and then he doesn't have to pay capital gains for when he goes to sell.
Yep. Yeah, someone said someone's Roomba is done.
I think it's the one at the school. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
But yeah, this was a great episode. I think everyone loves having Cody on. Like I said, he's super personable. He's always wanting to help, share his information, share his journey. He's getting blinded right now. It looks like a time of day of where he's at, and we got some Roombas going on. So this might be a great time to wrap it up shortly. But any final words? Like Cody, you want to throw anything out there real fast before we wrap things up?
Is I made to the topic of positioning. You got to play the cards you're dealt, but don't. I'm trying to think about how to best put this. You got to show your best self without lying. I see a lot of people online right now. They're showing their best self while lying, which is really tragic because I know behind closed doors, they're not acting the way that they're showing themselves online. So don't compare yourself to people online because it's a bunch of BS. And I know that for a fact. It's not a hunch. But you got to put your best self forward. So you have to figure out what that means for you. But you don't got to remember what you said if you tell the truth. And as long as you keep that in your core, I think you're going to do just fine.
Is there like a tool or a strategy? Because you actually came up during our brokerage meeting last Thursday of if you have a problem, write all the possible things that you can do and just write it out very clearly, right? With okay, if I do this, write everything out. If I do this, then write everything out. Do you have a thing for that when it comes to positioning your best self?
Well, you got to write yourself all out on a paper. That's something that I did. I put myself in a circle and then I split up all my experiences. And once you write it all down, now you have to figure out how to best articulate it. So, what I share today is a refined version of myself because I've written it down and I've read it out loud a lot of times. The reason I can speak with confidence now is because I've spoken without confidence for years, right? So just write it on a piece of paper and then read it. Because if you don't know your story, if you're not consistent with your story, like you're not sharing the actual facts, what ends up happening is what some of my buddies online have done. They mix up the stories. So I was just listening to a podcast when someone shared an owner meeting takeaway that was from a completely different owner. They've warped their reality because they haven't written it down, which is unfortunate. But it is a reality for a lot of people. So write yourself in the middle of the paper, write down all your experiences, and then refer to those. Because as good of a memory as you may have, unless it's photographic, you're going to forget unless you keep revisiting it. So you just got to keep doing it over and over, get the reps. And that way you're consistently sharing the truth of how it actually happened. And that will make you a more genuine person because your story is always going to be a matter of fact. It is what happened. It doesn't get skewed.
Great advice, and I'm not sure how many of you out there are on X or whatnot, but even like someone like Cody Sanchez, I think a lot of people know who she is, but there's people coming after her, I guess, in a sense, on X, questioning a lot of her timeline. So a lot of people are going back on things that she's posted or said and kind of saying, hey, this doesn't match up with what her story is and this and that, and even these deals that she's presented out there. So Allegedly, people are saying maybe she did certain things that she said she has done. So it's pretty interesting. But like you're saying, Cody, if you're telling the truth, right, there's not a lot to.
Yeah. And if people want to fact check you, great. You don't have to be super good at math to see if it adds up or not. That's the bottom line.
I just want to say what's up to Charles McCune here, who's going to be buying a helicopter for his wife very shortly. He's looking for a helicopter. There's Roomba, number 2. But Curtis, you want to wrap things up? You got anything to say?
Yeah, no, I know. I think this was great. While I hopped on late, it was awesome to hear from Cody and kind of ask him some questions that I had from the video and that I saw. I love that he puts those out. I'll definitely have to take his notes, and thank you for that kind of example of how to actually draw that out.
You bet.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. It was a fun one again. Go check out Cody and Curtis's channels. If you haven't yet, go subscribe there. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, with Brandon Potts, B2R Investing. I'm not sure what the topic is yet. Brandon still hasn't sent it to me, but we'll be back tomorrow. And of course, with Brandon, it's a fun one. But everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'll